Hello and welcome to another episode of the Women Series where we capture developments and stories that impact women. I am Ayomide Oguntoye. This edition of the Women Series program will be focusing on financial inclusion. On the sidelines of the just concluded 2023 Nigerian Fintech Week, WebTV engaged Dr. Oluwatomi Eromosele, the General Manager of EFINA, and that's Enhancing Innovation and Financial Access. We all know it as EFINA, right? On women and financial inclusion in Nigeria. She spoke about the participation of women in savings and investment activities, mobile money, and their venues to deepen financial inclusion in the country. Take a look.
Our last report was in 2021. We launched our access to financial service in 2021, and we found that 40% of adult Nigerian women were excluded from the financial services. And this included even informal services. So these are people who are completely saving at home or with friends and things like that. In terms of what can be done to encourage women's financial inclusion, one of that will be product innovation. What we have seen in this space is a lot of times we say we have women's products, but we just have products that maybe have a pink, coloring, or there's not much in-depth understanding on segmentation that have been done to really serve women. Again, women are also not a monolith group. So when you say you have a product for women, which women actually is that product suited to? So what we need to have is products that are targeted to specific segment. For example, a female business owner who lives in Lagos might need a separate product from a female business owner who lives in Kano or in Port Harcourt, and in even rural communities. Then that's variation also differs. So product differentiation and segmentation matters. Additionally to that, we know that women are also more developmental in the way they think. So my point being that when you look at a woman and you ask her what's she going to use her money for or her finances for, what she's thinking about is always things that have to do with either her child or her home or her business. So she's more developmental focused. So when you ask her to come and open an account, just for opening an account, she doesn't see the value in that because she has more pressing needs. And so when we come up with products that actually move beyond a transactional account to a developmental objective that a woman can achieve, that is more appealing to women, to take up their products. I also think that in the Nigerian context, beyond us just saying we want to include women, we also need to have institutions that are built to support women. Institutions who understand the needs of women. And unfortunately, what we have in Nigeria is that a lot of informal institutions, what we call our typical AJO and the others, really are built to support women. They are owned largely by women for women, and we need to find a way to include them in our financial system rather than us appealing to other providers to want to serve women. There are institutions who are traditionally serving women. What we need to do is to strengthen them and support them to be able to better serve them. When we look at insurance, the insurance sector in Nigeria is not as inclusive for women, but also for men. So, like we mentioned today, over 90% of the Nigerian adult population are excluded or underserved when it comes to the insurance segment, but even more so women, because we also know that for insurance you need to make frequent deposits. You need to have first contributed, and then when an event comes or a shock comes, you are able to get a claim to help you cope with that shock. Now, the interesting thing for women is that because they are so, burdened with a lot of responsibilities, the idea that I have to then sacrifice this and something else suffers, the women are not thinking about that. And so what we have to help them see is to move, is a mindset shift for women. But to do that, women have to do this hyperbolic discounting. So a woman says, if I'm going to even contribute to insurance, then there must be some benefit for me today. And that's what happens with even the AJO. The fact that, no, they're not promising them that in a few months' time down the line, it's about you're part of this institution, you're making contributions, and so you are entitled to some benefits maybe in the now, And that benefit might be financial, it might not be financial. You understand? So we need to think about women from that point of view of saying insurance itself, you're asking people to take a bet for women who are heavily burdened, sometimes disadvantaged, then it's more costly to them. So we need to ask ourselves, what are we giving to them now? To ensure that they are willing to take up that. And then things like awareness, simplicity of information, because again, even more women are challenged in terms of education. In our context, in the African context, there's more likelihood that the male child is educated. And education is one of the drivers for financial exclusion, and even more so insurance. So if we can educate our women, but beyond just academic education, it's financial education in a simple way that women understand. And at the end of the day, everyone wants value. If we can give women products that can deliver the value that they want to see, then women will be willing to take up those products. Again, for you to use mobile money, we're talking about some level of digital literacy. Um, so we need to ensure that we have some segment of women who are educated and digitally literate, and we need to even promote the adoption of mobile money within that group. But even beyond, so when you're going to women who are living in rural communities who are not even educated, mobile money is also, like you mentioned in Kenya, supposed to be an advantage. We've done away with brick and mortar now. We're trying to leverage mobile money to reach these women. But again, the question of how simple is it for them to understand? How easy is it for them to access it? What's the value proposition? Because you need to think about why will they take it up. Most of these women are into businesses, so the issue of can you show them, demonstrate to them how that mobile money is able to improve their business if it's in terms of payment. But what we have in this ecosystem is that there is not that much collaboration between the players to ensure that we take advantage of the ecosystem and provide more benefits to the users. And that's what I think we need to leverage on. For example, a woman who is into agriculture, a woman who is, in has a small business or has a small crèche for children. What value does mobile money bring to her? Things like network issues, for example, will be an issue. For example, because I've just said that women are a lot more burdened. So, if because of network I can't access my 1,000 naira, that could mean that the children don't eat that night. So, for women, there is a lot more. When we say technology, it has its own, disadvantages as well. If we don't have those infrastructure in place. So for women, we need to think about that. And I think because also when we talk about women's exclusion is largely in the north. So technology is good, but at the same time, you need to think about the fact that there is what we call so we have gender biases, right? There are gender roles, there are gender norms, particularly in the north, that affect women. I'll give you an example. A woman takes up mobile money because she thinks, okay, it promises everything we have said to her. But then she has a challenge with her account and she cannot resolve it. But she's unable to leave her house to go to an agent or whatever to fix that. So we need to also be aware of the gender norms and the social norms that might be, a challenge to women in different communities in Nigeria to be able to reach them. So again, the fact that technology is good, but it's not a one size fits all. It's necessary, but we need to combine that with all of the other factors that we need to address women's financial education. The good thing is we are currently wrapping up data collection for the next survey, and we're hoping to launch that in December this year. And interestingly, and kudos to the ecosystem, there's been a lot that has been going on. The gender desk at the CBN, the women's financial inclusion framework that has been set up by the industry. And so there's been a lot of products, that has been targeted at women. There's a lot that has happened in terms of using data to better understand and segment women and serve them better. There's also been a lot of attempts to ensure that we have female agents so that women, they can relate to them better. But I think that a lot more still needs to be done. we are making progress. We are taking the right steps. But I think one needs to be done. We need to accelerate that. We need to scale that. And we need to segment women more and in a way understand each segment. For example, women in the north are different from women elsewhere. So I think that's another missing track. And then the final thing will be to link that to sectors. So women in agriculture, there should be specific attention. Women in businesses, women who are in made in Nigeria good exports. There needs to be segmentation and targeted intervention for women in those markets.
A major takeaway that is proper segmentation and targeted interventions for women will help to improve their participation in socio-economic and financial activities in the country. And that's all we have for you on today's episode of the Women's Series program. Do follow us on all our social media platforms showing on the screen. Until next week, thank you for watching.